Nida Reyes was 32 years old, and people often described her as strong, though no one ever asked if she wanted to be. She worked overnight as an operations supervisor at a medical distribution warehouse outside Indianapolis, the kind of job that demanded calm under pressure. Nida never complained. She covered extra shifts, solved problems quietly, and paid her bills without asking anyone for help. That was just who she had become. But on one cold night, lying in an ICU bed with her arm wrapped tightly and her ribs aching every time she breathed, something changed. She picked up her phone slowly, hesitated for a second, then dialed home. When the call connected, her voice came out softer than she expected. "Mom, it's me. I'm at the hospital." There was loud music in the background before her mother even spoke. People were laughing, glasses clinking, voices overlapping like a celebration in full swing. "Nida? Can you make it quick?" her mother said, sounding distracted. Nida swallowed, trying to steady her voice. "I was in an accident," she said. "I'm in ICU right now." There was a short pause, then a sigh. "We're at Liana's engagement party," her mother replied. "This really isn't a good time." Nida blinked, confused. I thought you should know," she said quietly. Her father's voice came faintly from the background, "Tell her we'll talk later." Then her mother added, "You'll be fine, Nida. You always are." The call ended. Nida stared at the screen for a long moment before whispering, "Yeah. I always am." She slowly lowered the phone onto the bed and leaned her head back, staring at the ceiling. The machines beside her kept beeping steadily, as if nothing had changed, but everything inside her felt different. The pain in her ribs was sharp, but it was nothing compared to the weight settling in her chest. This wasn't new. That was the part that hurt the most. It had always been like this. Her younger sister, Liana, had always been the center of attention. "She lights up every room," their mother used to say proudly. And Nida? She was the one who made sure the room was clean before anyone arrived. She let out a small, bitter laugh. "I really thought tonight would be different," she murmured. Growing up, Nida had learned her place without anyone needing to explain it directly. Liana got the parties, the attention, the excitement. Nida got responsibility. "You're the older one, act like it," her father would say whenever she tried to speak up. When Liana cried, everyone rushed to comfort her. When Nida struggled, she was told, "Handle it yourself." Still, she tried. She showed up for them every time. One night years ago, Liana had called her in tears. "Nida, please come get me," she begged. Without hesitation, Nida grabbed her keys and drove across town. Sitting beside her, she had said gently, "I'm here." Now, lying in that hospital bed, Nida closed her eyes and whispered, "I was always there, just never enough." The next morning came slowly, like the world was moving without her. Nida kept glancing at the door, expecting it to open at any moment. She imagined her mother walking in with forced concern or her father standing awkwardly by the wall. Even Liana, maybe rushing in between makeup and photos. But the door never opened. A nurse came in instead, adjusting her for with a gentle smile. "Any visitors yet?" she asked kindly. Nida forced a small smile. "They're busy," she replied. Around noon, boredom got the better of her, and she picked up her phone. The moment her screen lit up, her chest tightened. Liana had posted pictures. White dress, perfect smile, champagne glasses raised high. Their parents stood beside her, proud and glowing. Nida stared at the caption under the photos. "Best night ever. So grateful for the people who always show up for me." She read it once, then again, as if the words might change. "Always show up," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Her fingers tightened around the phone. "I called you from ICU," she said quietly, as if they could hear her through the screen. Her vision blurred, and she blinked quickly, refusing to cry. "It's fine," she muttered, placing the phone face down on the bed. "It's always fine." She turned her head toward the window, but the memories came anyway. Holidays where she stayed in the kitchen while Liana opened gifts. Birthdays where her own celebrations felt like afterthoughts. It wasn't one moment. It was all of them. Later that afternoon, something shifted in the room. It was subtle at first, like the air had grown heavier. Nida frowned slightly and looked toward the door just as it opened. Two people stepped inside. They didn't look like hospital staff. The woman wore a dark blazer, her posture straight and serious. The man beside her carried a thick folder, his expression unreadable. "Nida Reyes?" the woman asked. Nida pushed herself up slightly, wincing at the pain in her ribs. "Yes, is something wrong?" she asked cautiously. The man stepped forward and placed the folder on the tray beside her. "We need to ask you a few questions," he said. Nida frowned. "Questions about what?" The woman met her eyes. "Your identity." Nida blinked, confused. "My identity?" she repeated, letting out a small, uneasy laugh. "You must have the wrong person. I'm pretty sure I know who I am." The man didn't smile. Instead, he opened the folder and carefully pulled out a photograph. He placed it in front of her. "Take a look at this," he said. Nida hesitated before picking it up. It was a picture of a small child, no older than 2. Dark curls framed her face, and her eyes were serious, almost watchful. Nida's breath caught slightly. "Who is this?" she asked, her voice softer now. The woman spoke gently. "Her name is Elena Cruz. She was reported missing over 30 years ago." Nida shook her head immediately. "Okay, and what does that have to do with me?" Agent Victor Hale opened the folder wider and slid a few documents toward her. "After your accident, there was a routine identity verification," he explained calmly. Nida frowned. "Okay, and?" Detective Carla Mendez stepped closer. "Something didn't match," she said. "That led to a secondary check." Nida's stomach tightened. "What kind of check?" she asked. The detective held her gaze. "A DNA comparison." The room went quiet. Nida blinked slowly. "You ran my DNA?" she asked, her voice low. "Yes," Agent Hale replied. "And the results raised serious concerns." Nida shook her head, a nervous laugh escaping her lips. "Concerns about what?" "You're not making any sense." Detective Mendez didn't look away. The DNA matched a missing child case. Nida stared at her, the words not fully landing at first. "Matched, how?" she asked. Agent Hale spoke carefully, as if each word mattered. "A very high probability. High enough that we requested immediate confirmation testing." Nida's fingers tightened around the bedsheet. "So you're saying, what exactly?" she pressed. There was a brief silence before Detective Mendez answered. "We believe you may have been abducted as a child." The sentence hit her like a physical blow. "No," Nida said instantly, shaking her head. "No, that's not possible." She looked down at the photo again, then back at them. "My parents," she stopped mid-sentence, something uneasy creeping into her chest. "There has to be a mistake," she said again, quieter this time. Agent Hale gently slid another document toward her. "This is the preliminary report," he said. Nida glanced at it but didn't really read it. Her mind was racing too fast. "And what, you think I'm this girl?" she asked. Detective Mendez nodded slightly. "Her name is Elena Cruz," she said. "She was taken from her family's home in California over 30 years ago." Nida let out a shaky breath. "And you think that's me?" she repeated. The detective didn't hesitate this time. "Yes." Nida pressed her lips together, her chest rising and falling quickly. "That doesn't make any sense," she whispered. "Why would anyone take me?" No one answered immediately. And somehow, that silence felt worse than any explanation. After a moment, Agent Hale spoke again. We need one final test, he said. A rapid confirmation, just to remove any doubt. Nida looked at him, her eyes searching his face for any sign of uncertainty. And if it comes back the same, she asked. Detective Mendez answered softly, then we move forward with the investigation. Nida swallowed hard. Investigation into what? She asked. The detective's voice remained steady. Into the possibility that the people who raised you were involved. The words hung in the air like something heavy and dangerous. Nida felt her throat go dry. You're saying my parents, she trailed off, unable to finish. Agent Hale didn't soften it. We're saying we need the truth. Nida sat there in silence for a long moment, staring at the papers in front of her. Her mind began pulling up memories she had never questioned before. Missing baby pictures. Her mother avoiding questions about her birth. The time she asked for her birth certificate and her father snapped, "Stop digging into things that don't concern you." At the time, she had brushed it off. Now, those moments felt different. If this is true, she whispered slowly, then everything I know is a lie. Detective Mendez didn't interrupt. Agent Hale simply placed a pen on the tray beside her. We need your consent for the final test, he said. Nida looked at the pen, then at them. After a long pause, she picked it up. Fine, she said quietly. Let's find out who I really am. The next morning, Nida didn't need anyone to tell her the result. She saw it in their faces the moment Detective Mendez and Agent Hale walked into the room. Still, she asked, her voice steady but low. It's positive, isn't it? There was a brief pause before Detective Mendez nodded. Yes, she said gently. The match is 99.999%. Nida closed her eyes slowly, as if the number itself carried weight. So. I'm not Nida Reyes, she whispered. Agent Hale stepped forward. Your biological identity is Elena Cruz, he said. The name felt strange, like it didn't belong to her, yet something about it settled deep inside her chest. Elena, she repeated under her breath. Then she looked up, her eyes sharp. Then who raised me? Detective Mendez exchanged a glance with Agent Hale before answering carefully. The people you know as your parents are now part of an active investigation, she said. Nida let out a breath that almost sounded like a laugh, but there was no humor in it. An investigation, she repeated. You mean they might have taken me? Agent Hale didn't soften it. That is one of the possibilities we are examining, he said. Nida turned her face away, staring at the wall. All those years, she whispered. All those moments I thought something was off. Her voice cracked slightly. You're telling me I wasn't imagining it. Detective Mendez stepped closer. No, she said softly. You weren't. Later that afternoon, another visitor arrived. He didn't rush into the room or speak immediately. He stood near the door for a moment, just looking at her like he was trying to understand something impossible. Nida, he asked quietly. She looked at him, confused. Yes? The man took a slow step forward. My name is Rafael Cruz, he said. The room fell silent. Nida's breath caught. Cruz, she repeated. He nodded, his eyes already filled with emotion. I believe. I'm your father. The words hung in the air between them. Nida stared at him, searching his face for something, anything, that made sense. You believe? She asked. His voice broke slightly. No, he said softly. I know. He moved closer, but carefully, like he didn't want to scare her. I've been looking for you for 30 years, he said. Nida blinked, overwhelmed. 30 years, she repeated. He nodded. Not a single day went by that we stopped, he added. She swallowed hard. We? She asked. A small, sad smile appeared on his face. Your mother, he said. She couldn't come right away, but she's waiting. She's been waiting your whole life. Nida felt tears slip down her face before she could stop them. I spent my whole life thinking I wasn't enough, she whispered. Raphael shook his head gently. You were always enough, he said. You were just taken from the people who knew it. 2 days after leaving the hospital, Nida made a decision that surprised even herself. I want to go back, she told Raphael quietly. He looked at her for a moment. Are you sure? He asked. Nida nodded. I need to hear it from them, she said. Not from reports. Not from files. From them. That afternoon, they drove to the house she had grown up in. It looked exactly the same, neatly trimmed lawn, quiet street, nothing out of place. It still looks normal, Nida murmured. Raphael glanced at her. Some things hide well, he replied. She took a deep breath and walked to the door. When Teresa opened it, her expression shifted instantly from annoyance to shock. Nida, she said. Then she saw Raphael behind her, and all the color drained from her face. Marco stepped into the hallway, his usual stern expression already cracking. What's going on? He demanded. Nida walked inside slowly, her eyes scanning the room. The same couch, the same pictures, the same life that now felt like a lie. Liana stood frozen near the kitchen, her voice shaking. Nida, what is this? Nida didn't answer her. Instead, she looked straight at Teresa. I'm going to ask you one question, she said calmly. And I need you to tell the truth. Teresa's hands trembled. What are you talking about? She whispered. Nida held her gaze. Did you take me? The room went completely silent. Teresa collapsed into a chair, tears spilling instantly. It wasn't supposed to happen like this, she cried. Marco snapped, don't say anything, but it was too late. Nida's eyes hardened. So it's true, she said quietly. Marco stepped forward, defensive. We raised you, he said sharply. We gave you everything. Nida turned to him, her voice steady but cold. No, she said. You gave me a lie. Liana shook her head, backing away. No, this isn't real, she whispered. Nida looked at her briefly. You never wondered why I was always different, she asked. Liana didn't answer. She couldn't. The front door opened again as Detective Mendez and Agent Hale stepped in with officers behind them. Teresa began to panic. Please, we can explain, she cried. Marcos clenched his fists. This is ridiculous, he said, though his voice had lost its strength. Agent Hale spoke firmly. Marcos Reyes, Teresa Reyes, you are under arrest. The words echoed through the room. Teresa broke down completely, begging. Nida, please say something, she cried. But Nida didn't move. She just stood there, watching. Marcos was handcuffed first, his face pale. Teresa followed, still sobbing. As they were led outside, neighbors began to gather, whispering. The life they had built was collapsing in front of everyone. Liana stood in the middle of the room, shaking. Nida, please, she said weakly. Nida turned to her slowly. What do you want me to say? She asked. Liana's voice cracked. We're still family, she said. Nida held her gaze for a long moment. No, she replied quietly. We were a story built on something stolen. Liana's face fell apart, tears running freely now. I didn't know, she whispered. Nida nodded slightly. Maybe not, she said. But you never asked. That silence hit harder than anything else. Without another word, Nida turned and walked out of the house, leaving everything behind her. Months later, life felt different in ways Nida was still learning to understand. She stayed in California, close to Raphael and her biological family, but she chose to live on her own. One evening, her mother held her face gently and whispered, I thought I lost you forever. Nida smiled softly. I think part of me always knew someone was missing, she replied. Healing wasn't instant, but it was real. She started working with an organization that helped missing children and identity cases. For the first time, her past didn't feel like a burden, it felt like something she could use to help others. 1 year later, her phone wouldn't stop ringing. Unknown numbers at first, then familiar ones. Messages from Teresa. Missed calls from Liana. Finally, she answered one. "Nida, please," Liana said quickly. "Things are bad. We need your help." Nida stayed quiet for a moment. "Help," she repeated. "After everything?" Liana's voice broke. "We're still your family," she insisted. Nida closed her eyes briefly, then spoke calmly. "No," she said. "You were never my family. You were my past." There was silence on the other end. Then Nida ended the call. She set her phone down and looked around her quiet apartment. For the first time in her life, there was no noise, no pressure, no expectation to prove herself. Just peace. She took a deep breath and let it out slowly. "I choose me," she said softly. And this time, there was no doubt, no guilt, no hesitation. Just truth.